Hilchos Shevitat Asor, the laws to Hilchos Shevitat Asor, Yishbechlol and Arba mitzvahs. They contain 4 mitzvahs. Shtem mitzvahs asay, v'shtem mitzvahs asay. V'zo prat the lish beis beim malacha the rest of this day. Shleilas is beim malacha not to perform work. At least anis bay to fast. Shleilachu lish is not to eat or drink. We're going to explain the halachas in the following chapters. Aleph. Mitzvahs asay the shvis beim malacha b'asay the shvish and Amar Shabbat Yulachem. It's a mitzvah asay to refrain from all work on Yud Tishrei. As it says, it shall be a Shabbos of Shabbos. In other words, in Kippur. And anyone who does do work, number 1, bittul mitzvah asay, v'ovar leis asay. He nullifies a mitzvah asay and he's over on leis asay. Like it says, shenemar uba asar, kol malacha leis asu. Ma'u chayav al asis malacha be'em bezeh. So practically, what is he going to be obligated if he does do work? It must be saying, and if he does it on purpose, chayav kares, he's chayav kares. If he does a work inadvertently, chayav korban chatas kavua, he will be chayav a korban chatas kavua. Base. Wherever a person for doing a malacha on Shabbos bezadin will be chayav stoning, on Yom Kippur will be chayav kares. And anyone on Shabbos, if he does a malacha, will be chayav a korban, like b'shegig, chayav and Allah, korban chatas b'mek kippurim, he will be chayav a korban chatas in Yom Kippur. Chodav v'shas l'aseh say b'Shabbos, havel bi shein malacha as l'aseh b'mek kippurim. Any malacha that's forbidden to be performed on Shabbos, although it's not forbidden labor, it's forbidden to be performed on Yom Kippur. And if a person does do it, makanisi makas mardis, it does from makanisi all Shabbos, the same thing that happens on Shabbos, that he gets makas mardis, Yom Kippur as well. B'chol the top of Shabbos, also the top of Yom Kippur, anything which is muktzah on Shabbos is muktzah in Kippur. Anything that is forbidden to be said or done on Shabbos cannot be done on Yom Kippur. There's no difference. The general rule is that there's no difference between Shabbos and Yom Kippur. The only difference is that if a person willfully performs a forbidden labor on Shabbos it'll be chayav skila, and Yom Kippur will be kares. Gimel. It's permitted to trim a vegetable on Yom Kippur from mid-afternoon and onwards. What is meant by trimming? To remove the wilted leaves and to cut the others to prepare them for eating. Also, it's permitted to crack open nuts and to open pomegranates on Yom Kippur from Minchol HaMayla. And why would the Chacham grant these leniencies for the Agmas Nefesh so that one will not endure hardship? However, if Yom Kippur falls on the Shabbos, it's forbidden to trim vegetables, open nuts, and pomegranates the entire day. Rambam leaves off that it became the accepted minhag in Babylon and in North Africa not to perform these activities during the fast. Instead, Yom Kippur is treated like Shabbos to all its particulars. Now, there's also another positive commandment in Yom Kippur to refrain from eating and drinking. As it says, Tanos Avsheisechem, you shall afflict your souls. According to oral tradition, it's been taught what is meant by afflicting one's soul. This is fasting. Whoever fasts on this day is Mekayim mitzvah. However, anybody gets a drink, says Mbatal mitzvah, and it's over in legislation, like it says, it says any soul that does not afflict the soul will be cut off. So, since the Teda punishes a person who does not fast with kares, we can learn that they are forbidden to eat and drink on this day. Person eats and drinks b'sheg on this day is chayav to bring a korban chatas kavua. Also, we learn according to oral tradition. It's forbidden also to wash, anoint himself, wear shoes, and engage in relations with his wife on this day. It's a mitzvah to refrain from these activities. In the same way, one refrains from eating and drinking. A person's chayav al-carbon only on eating and drinking. A ball, if a person either washes his hands, or anoints himself, or wears shoes, etc., or he's bail, he's only chayav makasmadis vav. Kishem sheshvus malacha b'shabbos ben b'layla, kach shvus l'yirei ben b'yim ben b'layla. Just as it's an obligation to refrain from work applies to both during the day and the night, so too the obligation to refrain from these activities of inay oneself applies both by day and the night. So it's also an obligation to add time from the mundane to the sacred at both the entrance and the departure of the Yom Tov. Like it says, and you shall afflict your soul in the night of the month in the evening. Meaning to say, that means that one will begin fasting and afflicting oneself on the afternoon of the night. Similarly, at the departure of Yom Kippur, one shall prolong the affliction slightly, entering the night of the 11th, which follows the 10th. It says, from evening to evening, you shall keep his day of refraining. Zayin. If a woman who eat and drink till dark, in other words, they don't know about this of being meisav mechol ala kiddush, Allah is, we do not say anything, so they should not be one that considers to be performing the transgression willingly. You can't be a policeman in everyone's house to start warning the ladies. It's better let them be ones who transgress unintentionally, and they should not be transgressing intentionally. And this applies to also other similar instances. Hilchos Shevitat Asor, Chapter 2, Perek Beis. On Yom Kippur, a person is chayav for eating an amount of food that is fit for humans to eat, as equivalent to the size of a large ripe date. In other words, slightly less than the size of a egg. And that's what he's going to be chayav. All food and starving the are combined for this measure. One who drinks a cheekful of liquid fit to be drunk by humans is chayiv. The size of a cheekful, not a standard measure, but rather the dependent on the size of the cheek of every individual. What is meant by a cheekful? Enough liquid for a person to swish to one side of his mouth and for his cheek to appear full. And this shear is the measure less than a revis. The shear zen, all liquids combined to this measure. Foods and liquids are not combined to a single measure. One is chayiv for cars for eating or on Yom Kippur. One eats that is fit for human consumption, regardless of whether it is permitted or forbidden. Pigul, neser, tevel, flesh of an animal that died without shchita, the flesh of an animal that is treifa, fat, or blood. A person that eats and drinks less than the shear, he's not chayiv cars. Even though we know there's a din of chatzi shear asur natira, and chayiv cars al shear. One is not going to be chayiv cars except if he eats the shear. A person that eats and drinks less than the minimum measure is given makas mardis. If a person eats and stops, stops. So Harum is starving the kishivim, not even starving the kishivim. That's called achilas process. I'm achlekas in achlein what that is. Either 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 8 minutes. So we'll say between 4 and 8 minutes. Now, shasamad b'chaz v'shasa image mitchilas shir shenat seif shir achleina teish shir revism stuff. The shivim not even starving. Now, the same thing applies to drinks. If the time from when he begins drinking until he concludes drinking is less than the time it takes to drink a revis, it's included in the same measure. If not, it's not included in the same measure. Hey, achal chom shenet royim na'is Asava mamara meisraf mabuushin, as just a mashki shein rovim lishtes, shtieg in sirem worries of him tzchai, fil och v'shos me'an harba, as a potem anakoris. If a person eats foods, but these foods are not fit for human consumption. For example, bitter herbs, foul-tasting syrup, or drink liquids that are not fit to be drunk. For example, fish brine, pickle brine, or undiluted vinegar. He's not chayav kares, even if he eats or drinks a substantial amount. However, a person who drinks vinegar mixed with the water is chayav. Person who chews dried pepper, dried ginger, or the like, he is butter. If, however, he chews fresh ginger, he is chayav. When a person who eats the leaves of a vine, what is meant by the buds of the vine? The buds that have sprouted in Eretz Yisrael from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur. Yes, all that is if they sprouted earlier, they are considered as wood, and is chayiv. When a person eats roast meat that has been salted, the salt is included in the mass of the meat. It's instead of also brine of the vegetables also. Because condiments that made food fit to be eaten are mixed together with the food and are considered part of the food. For a person who was overeaten, oversatiated, and he's like jaded by the food, and then he ate more, he's not chayav. It's comparable to a person who eats food that is not fit for consumption. Although this additional amount is fit to be eaten by a person who is hungry, it's not fit for a person who is sated to this extent. A person who is dangerously ill, he's allowed to eat on Yom Kippur, even if the Reifim Abkiyim say he doesn't eat. Till he says it's unnecessary. If he says he doesn't eat and the Reifim says he does, we listen to the physician. As long as he knows what he's talking about. If one doctor says he needs and one doctor says he doesn't need, we do not take a chance. Whenever we have a doubt, some doctors say yes, some doctors say no, we go after the majority. As long as the chela doesn't say he needs it. As long as the patient says he needs it, doesn't matter what the doctors say, we give it him. If it's half and half, we do give it him. Test. When a pregnant woman smells food and is overcome by the desire, we should whisper in her ear that today is Yom Kippur. If this reminder is sufficient to calm her senses, is desirable. If not, she should be fed until the desire ceases. If a person is overcome by hunger, he should be fed until he sees clearly. And we give him even non-kosher meat or loathsome species. We do not require that he wait until permitted food becomes available. A child who's 9 or 10, we train him to fast several hours. If he's usually 2 hours in a day, we tell him wait 1 more hour. If he's by 3 hours, tell him 4 hours. Based on the child's stamina, we should add hours to his English. When a child is 11 years old, whether female or male, he should complete his fast so that he be trained in the observance of mitzvahs. A girl is 12 and a boy is 13. As long as they bring shtei sires, they're mechuyim deraisa. However, if they do not have shtei sires, then they only have to complete a mitzvah seifim. A child is less than 9 should not fast at all in order that he should not come to sakana. Hilchos Shevitat Asor, Chapter 3. It's forbidden to wash in Yom Kippur whether using hot or cold water. In Kol Gufa ben Ever Echad, one may not wash one's entire body, nor an individual limb. Even if it's a small finger, it's asur to immerse in water. A king and a bride may wash their faces. A bride, so that she will not appear unattractive to her husbands. V'amelech te'shira b'yofyoi. A king, so that he will appear splendorous. Never, as it says, Melech b'yofyoi techazeni necha. Your eyes shall behold the king in his splendor. At Kamanikas Kala, until when is the wife considered to be a Kala? Ashleishim 30 days. Beis, Misha Ayam Aluchot Tit. Person who was soiled with filth or mud. Brechas Malkim Atinipis Kadakim and Necheshish, he may wash off his dirt in an ordinary manner without reservation. Mdichish Yoda Achas B'mayim and he said it's paslatinik. A woman may wash one's hand in water and give a piece of bread to a child. Achil Rechetz Kedagal for Beishin and Mesukin, a person still may wash in the ordinary manner, even though Chachayv still a statement Kedagal than the fish above them the Yom. All those who are obligated to go to mikveh, immerse themselves in the ordinary manner, the supply station of Yom Kippur. A person sees a seminal mission on Yom Kippur. If it's still moist, he should wipe it off with cloth, and that's sufficient. If it's dry or he has become soiled, he may wash the soiled portion of his body and pray. Also, the difference called gufel it's however forbidden to wash his entire body or to immerse himself. For a person who immerses himself at his present age is not ritually pure. The practice of washing after an nocturnal emission before davening is a minig, and a minig may not nullify a isser. It may only prohibit that which is permitted. The statement that a person who had a seminal emission in Yom Kippur should immerse himself was applicable only in the era when it was required to go to mikveh after seminal emission. As explained, this takana has already been nullified. That it's forbidden to sit on a mud that is moist enough that if a person places his hand on it, sufficient moisture will rise up with it, so that if he joins his hand to his other hand, the other hand will become moist. A person should not fill an earthenware container with water and use it to cool himself, for the water permeates through its walls. Physically, it's forbidden to use a metal container lest water sprinkle on his flesh. Is permitted to cool off by holding fruit against one's flesh. A person on the day preceding Yom Kippur, a person may take a handkerchief, soak in water, wring it out slightly, place it under clothes. On the following day, he may wipe his face without any reservation, despite the fact that it's very cold. Person is going to agree. Teacher his father or someone who surpasses him in knowledge, or similarly a person who is going to be medrash may pass through water that is neck high without any reservation. Moreover, he performs the mitzvah that he intended to perform, he may return to his home via the water. If you're not going to allow him, he'll be nifshal in the mitzvah. Similarly, a person who goes to guard his produce may pass through water that is neck high without any reservation. These leniencies are granted provided one does not extend his hand out from under the fringes of his garment as one would do so during the week. Also, it's forbidden to wear a leather shoe or to a sandal you don't want to put, or the lutzis besandal shall sham shall gemegezman. It's permitted to wear a sandal made of reeds, rushes, or the like. Person may wind cloth over his feet or the like, for his feet remain sensitive to the hardness of the ground, and he feels barefoot. All children are allowed to eat, drink, wash, and anoint oneself. They should be prevented from wearing shoes and sandals. All people are allowed to wear sandals to protect themselves from being bitten by scorpions. A woman who had just given birth may wear sandals for 30 days. that should be chilled. A person who's sick, even if their illness is not dangerous. It's forbidden to anoint one's entire body, so it's forbidden to anoint a portion of one's body. This restriction applies both to anointing that brings one pleasure and to anointing that does not bring pleasure. Or he has the sores on his scab. She may anoint himself in ordinary manner without any rosary. As I never we put him with this basis upon him. Some people light a candle in order that they should have be modest, that they should not have to be prompted to engage in sexual relations with his wife. And some people will say not to do it because the light will attract her and be prompted to engage in tashmish. Yom Kippur falls on Shabbos. It's an obligation to light candle coming on the members for all communities. For lighting a candle on Shabbos is an obligation. Must be Hashem granted assistance.